For us. Talked about his father the last time. This time we're going to hear about Latifa, who many of us had the opportunity to know and be in the same community with, unlike his father who wasn't in this part of the world so long. I lived in Canada when the Toegs were there, and certainly earlier than that, visited the Toegs when they lived in Hull. So I have a little idea of what people did in their life. Jamal's going to fill it all in it. So, welcome, and we'll let Jamal carry on.
Thank you. Well, good evening, friends, Latifa friends. I'm so happy that you all came tonight. Yeah, I'm trying to put in a capsule all my mother's life. That's her picture maybe a couple of years before she died. You know, some of the pictures there earlier. Just by the way, the table that is the pictures of her travel in the north or whatever, that's what I can get. And those are mostly with the Baha'is, with the people that she taught them the faith and became Baha'is, or with them and the community. And the other one is whatever I could get from the articles were written about her or interviews that she had there. And the last thing is her notebook. I put it there just to show you what she puts in her notebook. So that's for you to later on have a look at. Okay. I had to put everything down so that I can squeeze the time. Okay. Maybe I should start with the letter of the Universal House of Justice that's written to us. Dear Baha'i friend, the Universal House of Justice was saddened to learn from your email later so-and-so 3 November 2010. She died 1st of November. The passing of your dear mother, Latifa Toeg, devoted handmaiden of the Blessed Beauty. Her many years of distinguished and dedicated service, including membership on the National Spiritual Assembly of Iraq, are lovingly remembered. May her steadfast and praiseworthy contribution to the faith be a source of inspiration to those she has left behind. Rest assured of the supplications of the House of Justice and the sacred threshold for the progress of her radiant soul throughout the heavenly realms. Prayers will also be offered that you and members of your family may be comforted, and solicited through the sustaining grace of the ancient beauty at the time of loss and bereavement. With loving Baha'i greetings. She was born in Iraq, Baghdad, Iraq, from a Jewish family. Her father died very early. So the family was always in a state of having to ask people for help. Because her family, like her mother, was part of 13 siblings in one family. Very well-known Jewish family, they called it Korean. Most of them, they were very high, either in the government at that time in Iraq. One of them was a doctor, and later when he went to Israel, he became the Minister of Health in Israel. And so some of her uncle and aunts used to help the family, you know, to sustain their life in Baghdad, Iraq. Her education was only primary school. After primary school, she was deaf, home. The only time she can go out, it has to be with somebody else, either a brother, sister, or somebody, because she was a beautiful girl, and her skin was whitish, and this is a problem in the Islam world. They all like a white person. So, including my father. That's why he chose her. Yeah. So so really her education is only a primary school, and she learned a little bit of French at that time, and maybe a little bit of English, because the Jewish schools, they used to teach them English and French and Hebrew. I don't think she has any idea what Hebrew is all about, because my father spoke Hebrew, several languages including Hebrew. So let me see what else I have here. My father decided when he was a bit older, like there was quite a difference between his age and her age. When he was older, when he was established and well-known merchant in Baghdad, Iraq, he decided to get married, and he had his own specification. Of course, that time there is what they call the matchmakers. So the matchmakers are working, trying to find out his specification. They found her, and so again, the only time he saw her is he was standing on one side of the main street on a sidewalk, and she was passing on the other sidewalk, and that's all he could see is a girl. I said, yeah, that's what I want. That's okay. So the family didn't know what's the Baha'i is going on. Of course, finally the doctor, the one that I mentioned, he said, I'll do the whole, communication between the husband and wife, of David Toeg and her. So he asked, her mother asked this uncle, she said, what is this Baha'i Faith? He said, Masonic type of thing, giving good things to the people and stuff like that. So thank God he was not right. If you had known that it is something related to Islam and this, he would have said, forget it. So the only problem is, in Iraq, the dowry, all the girls has to have a dowry. And the person who has 3 girls is bankrupt, because he has to give. And the uglier the girl, the dowry goes higher and higher, So when my father asked to get married to her, they asked him to pay, at a very, very high price, £5,000 at that time. He knew that the family needed help, and he knew he's okay, he can manage it, and he knew because he's older, and she's very beautiful and stuff like that, so he paid it. He had no problem with that. But after the marriage, he helped her family quite a bit. Like he rented house for her mother, 2 sisters, and one brother, maybe 2 brothers. Anyway, he helped them along the way to sustain their life. Once her family, like the aunts and uncles, everything, knew about the faith, knew that we believe in Islam, we have no problem, stuff like that. Let me say about how she became Baha'i. I think I said that last time with my father, but I will go through it again. My father had a friend who he told his wife, the Jewish wife, that Baha'u'llah is about this and stuff, and he wanted really her to become Baha'i, and she refused. All his life was given the hard way of living because she didn't want to convert to a Baha'i faith. And my father knew that this guy, which he made a Baha'i, a Jewish guy, that he made a mistake. He shouldn't have pushed. So he told himself, I'm not going to push anything. I'm just going to, sometimes I say something about the faith. So when they were engaged, of course, in the Jews, I don't know, in the Middle East, there is no engagement really as engagement. It's almost a marriage. Once they make the first announcement, they call it Qudus. This is like almost a marriage. Like he can sleep with her after that because they have to go out and do things. So if the engagement has to be cancelled, they have to go through a very hard some kind of ceremonies to get divorced. And the marriage has another party, but it is just in name of a marriage party. The marriage already is being done in the first stage. So they were still in that stage of engagement, and somehow he said, "Oh yeah, Baha'u'llah said the world is one country and mankind is citizen." She said she heard it. And second night, again, another verse. The pride is in being steadfast, and we have to be something like that. And she accepted that Baha'u'llah said it. The third night she said, "Hey, what's this Baha'u'llah business? Those quotes are beautiful. What's going on?" He said to her, "We have a lot of time in front of us, and we can talk about it later on." She said, "Tonight I have to know." She said, "Now you have to tell me what's going on." He told her, well, he knew that he was in a bind. So he said, "Really, it's a new kind of a faith. We believe this, Baha'u'llah is a new messenger and everything." She said, "Wow, I dreamt things like that." So she told her, "What did you dream?" She said, "I dreamt I was naked, and an old man with a white beard came to me, and he put a robe around my shoulders, and he said, 'We will clothe you with the robe of heaven and earth.'" She said, "I've seen that dream 2-3 times, not only just once." She said, "I think what you're talking about is right." So really from that night she became Baha'i. From the third night she became Baha'i. And that's the reason why she was ostracized by her family. All the uncles and the aunts except one, who later on, she loved her as a person. She loved my mother because my mother was very happy person. She used to have a very nice sense of humor, and she used to sing for the family. She has a beautiful voice. So from all those 13%, there was only one who used to visit her and stuff like that. And the other reason also for them to not accept her as a member of the family is that when her mother went to Israel, when they accepted to go to Israel, and the government canceled their citizenship. Her mother, her sister, and her brother, they went in one trip to Israel, to build Israel. They told them there is houses and there is this. Turned out to be years in tents. And the mother died from malnutrition, and the sister had a neurological problem because there was enough food for them. And they used to work in building, with concrete and bricks and do the construction of houses. So they were really, I don't know what to say, but it wasn't what they promised them. So when her mother died in Israel, her family knew that the mother died. They have an obligation to go and visit her. So they came, I remember very well, I was maybe about 9, maybe even less, about that. Yeah. And it was the Rizwan, the first day of Rizwan. And we were dressed up, I remember white, all of us white, and my mother was dressed up, and we were going to go to the car. The driver is going to drive us to the Hazira. And I remember 2 cars came full of people. And they say, you are in white, and where are you going? Your mother died. What happened? She said, well, you know, Baha'is have one of the best feasts, Rizwan, and I have to go to the meeting, you know. She said, we don't have any problem with that. It's a good messenger, and you know, she was trying to teach them the faith in a short time. They all went back, sat down in their car, and they hated her twice, you know. So that was another thing, that she had to proclaim her faith in a very, very circumstances that she should be sitting down in her house and crying and people giving her help and stuff like that. So I want to mention something because I don't think many people know about what happened to her. Of course, you know, when you have all this family and you are rejected by them, she has a very, very, what they call, like a sad feeling about this rejection. But she was happy. At least she has the Baha'i family, the Baha'i friends as her family. And of course, that time the women were meeting in one part of the Hazira, and the men in one part. They couldn't mix together until later on. And so she used to go to these meetings and participate in what they call committees to bring clothes and things for the poor families of the Baha'is, you know. She was very active in that. And she felt it's a good solace for her, you know, doing this service. And she didn't realize there is a lot of people who were jealous from her. You know, the way she dresses, she's married to a wealthy man, a car and chauffeur bring her, take her back, you know. So between them, they start trying to do something just between them to laugh at her. So they called her the peacock. And she used to hear things, oh, the peacock said this, the peacock dressed this, peacock, you know. She didn't know what does that mean. And when she discovered that, she was really, really, she wasn't depressed, but she was very sad, to the point that affected her. What happened is she had itching all over her body, right from here all the way to the end. Every part of her body she itched. And I remember her very well. She used to close the door on her in her room, sit down and cry. And we are the 3 brothers, we were just still like that. We go and hear our mother crying all the time. And my father tried to really encourage her, but what can he do? She's always going, you know. And I'm pretty sure my father finally decided that he has to do something about that. Otherwise, doesn't know what's going to happen. So, but I remember the people used to tell her, go to this kind of herb, go to this kind of a root, squeeze this kind of a thing, do this kind of the fruit, you know, and she was always mixing things and squeezing, you know, and boiling juices, you know. I remember till now, honestly, till now I remember the stupid smell of one of the herbs, not herbs, no, it's a leaves, thing like that. She has to squeeze them and stuff like that. So finally, my father found a Swiss doctor from Switzerland. This doctor had found some way of treating the body, the human body, with the shock. The shock is the person is giving insulin, very high dose of insulin, burns all the sugar in the blood, and the person, he becomes almost in a coma for an hour, and then he revives it. So my father used to take us, all of us, in the car, and she goes up with my father to the doctor. We are three of us in the car, and he gives her the shot of insulin, and she goes almost unconscious. Maybe a coma, I don't know, coma. But, and then he has to check her every 10 minutes in case her heart stops, you know. And after an hour, he gives her a glass that big of orange juice plus sugar in it, and revive her, you know, little by little, and then she comes back. And everybody that knew my father, they say, her mother and sisters went to Israel, he wants to kill her, so he can marry somebody else. You know, this is what went on in the society. The Toeg is killing his wife. You know, but they don't know really what's the problem. Thank God, she was cured. Thank God, she was cured. And but of course, at that time, my father stood up somewhere and talked to the assembly, or the National Assembly, that to suppress this calling of a peacock and stuff like that, you know. She's serving, she's doing this, why they are doing like that. So, Quran. When my father discovered again that she has a very nice, beautiful voice, as most of you know, when she reads a prayer, and when she went to 5 conferences around the world, Ruhiya Khanum used to ask her to open the conference with a prayer from Baha'u'llah. So my father decided that the best thing to do is to teach her how to recite the Quran, tajweed al-Quran in Arabic. It's a special way of reciting the Quran, and special way of treating the vowels and stuff like that. So they were living in a Jewish neighborhood. So my father decided, well, he has to bring a mullah to the house to teach her that. So he said, well, the Jews are going to say, oh, he's bringing a mullah, and he's going to look at him with his wife, and. So he decided to bring a blind mullah. So this blind mullah comes from the beginning of the road. I mean, probably he knew to see a little bit, but he doesn't know. At that time, there was no number for houses. It's only house of so-and-so, house of so-and-so. So he gets off whatever transportation he has, and he goes to the first house in that neighborhood. Is this house of the Toeg? And all the Jews, they don't know what's going on here, you know. A mullah is on the door, and he said, what do you want? I have to teach his wife the Quran and the intoning of the Quran. The whole street have to know that a mullah is going to the Toeg's wife to teach her the Quran. My father, he used to have a hell of a time, you know, knowing this is going on. You know, I have no problem. And again, I think I said that in my talk about my father, when she went to Turkey, and the mullah of that, one of the biggest mosques in Turkey, they call it the Blue Mosque now. It used to go called Hagia Sophia or something like that. And when the mullah of the Quran knew that my mother knows how to recite the Quran in Arabic, because most of them, they don't know how to speak Arabic. She was pregnant with my brother Jamal, and hot summer and everything, and it is Friday, it is Ramadan, it's you know, he asked her to recite the Quran finally he had to push her all the way to the minaret, you know, to go up, and she did recite the Quran at that time, and my father was happy about a Jewish woman in Ramadan reciting the Quran for the people. She had to be responsible for the house because my father was from morning until evening he's working on his business. So she was in charge of servant, help, the cook, driver, landscaper, somebody who washes the things, and she has almost like a few people she has to organize them, organize the cooking, organize the shopping. Everything was done by the driver, you know. My father had no time to do this. And tell you the truth, even my father, the way my father was accustomed to, he never buys any of his clothes. It's either his mother, which she died, or his wife. So my mother buys all the underwear, the shirts, the ties, the suits, everything. And in the morning he wakes up, he sees everything on the bed ready for him, and you go wear everything. He doesn't even know what goes with what. Yeah. Yeah. So she was in charge of the whole thing, you know, like our life, three of us, you know, taking bath for us, teaching us when we come from school, and organize the cooking, organize the maintenance of the house, organize everything. So she used to do that. I just want to remind you all the time that she has only a primary school education. She ended up speaking 4 languages, and I think her Arabic was the most, the strongest one. The Arabic she spoke is the Islamic Arabic and the Jewish Arabic, both of them, and she excelled in them. Because most of the Jews, they always cannot speak the Islamic language, the Muslim language, and they can detect him just like that. If they say one word, they know he's a Jew. And the whole family, all of us, my father, my mother, my father, not that much, but my mother, she perfected her, and nobody can say she's a Jew. She perfected her way of saying a Muslim Arabic. When people used to come to Baghdad, most of them, they used to stay in our house. We have a huge bedroom only for guests. Most of the time was occupied by hand of the cause from Iran. I think one Italian hand of the cause was there, or people from Arab countries. They used to come and stay with us for a while, and she makes sure that she cooks for them the right thing, what's good for them, like whether it is sugary or salty or oily. You know, she has to make sure that this is the way they like it, and take care of them, and provide them with time. They can sit down, they do their own things, or sit or have what do you call it, like a time to write things, and nobody is bothering them.
Jamal, would you tell us which hands came to your house?
All the Iranian, including mostly the Iranian. Leo Jackery came.
So Mr. Khalem, Mr.
Oh, those are all Alai, the one who was here in
Khazi too.
Huh?
Mr. Khazi. Did Mr. Khazi come to?
Yes, and Samandari. But Samandari, he used to say months, not days, because the guardian told him, Iraq is your goal. He said, anything happens in Iraq, you're responsible for it. And finally, When the government discovered that, they had a court case against him, and an absentia, and the decision was to hang him. So yeah, so he used to come to Iraq through Kuwait. He used to go from Kuwait to Basra across the border, and little by little he get all the way taxis and stuff like that to come to Baghdad, and then once he's at our house, he's protected.
Which hand are you talking about?
Samandari.
Samandari.
Yeah, Samandari was very important. And sometimes there was a hand, was a counselor in Kuwait also, he comes with him, like just for a while. Yeah, and when we were pioneering in the north of Iraq in Kirkuk, also he used to come for 3 months. Most of the time when we have, Kamal and myself, when we were in high school, we used to have students there, which we talked to them about the Baha'i Faith. We used to bring them so that the hands of the Samandari talk with them about the faith and everything. Of course, my father is there to translate to them what the plan. 2 of them became Baha'is. One of them became a auxiliary board member in Africa, in Gambia, and the other one I lost contact with him. He went to England. In fact, he was a mullah of a mosque, the one that he became Baha'i. He was a mullah of a mosque. And I remember very well, he used to ask me about, in the Quran, what says that, what people are asking me, what should I say? I say, this is because of that or that. So he goes on Friday, this is when he has to get up and say it. He goes and explains to them what I said to him. And when they come, again, some of the Western people come as visitors, all those hand of the cause, she arranged for them to go and have the pilgrimage around the house of Baha'u'llah. They have the women, they have to wear the abaya, and the men, we have black coats they wear, and we go around the house. And most of the time, Kamal and myself used to go with them anyway, just as a group. Now the house is demolished by the Shia, but we have all the pictures, all the things in the archives in Haifa. When I talked about my father and his relationship with the Guardian wrote a letter to my father, who gave my mother the title of the woman with certitude, and Muqina, the name, Latifa Khan, al-Muqina wa Latifa Khan. Oh, yeah. She lost her name as a Latifa. Once I was born, she was no more, nobody calls her Latifa anymore. They call her Jamal, the mother of Jamal. And my father is the same thing. They lost their names. She gained it, and he gained it once they came to Canada. They were known by Latifa and Dawood. And for me, it was a good thing, I always tell my brothers, you don't count. My father and mother took my name. And I remember when Hand of the Cause Khadim, Zikrullah Khadim, my father was auxiliary board member for him, for protection. I remember when one of the goals of the 10-year crusade was to find three tombs of Baha'is, the father of Baha'u'llah, the uncle of the Bab and mother of something, I forgot. And we finally found two, and the stories about that, it's unbelievable how we found them. They were in the place where the Shia buries their bodies, and it was miracles how we found those things. It was the only one left we couldn't find. And I remember my mother was told me later on, she said, she sat down, she wanted to ask the hand of the Zikrullah Khadim to convey her wish to the guardian. She said she wanted to be a martyr so that they can find that last goal. And she wanted to ask Zikrullah Khadim to go and ask the guardian so he can grant her the wish of being martyr. And while she was contemplating this and reading a prayer about it, she said, I saw three black, what do they call them, like ghosts in front of me. Three black ghosts. So I knew there is something else I have to do. It's you guys. I have to be martyr for you guys. You know. So she only talked to the Zikrullah Khadim. She said, this is what I wanted to say, and this is what I'm saying. He said, yeah, of course. You know, Allah had shown you what's job number one. You know, this is more important than being a martyr at that time. Oh, I have to skip. Yeah, so again for the 10-year crusade, she forced my father to resign from his job and go for pioneer to Kirkuk. And of course, he had to ask the hand of the Zikrullah Khadim if he pioneer to Kirkuk. Of course, Zikrullah Khadim said, sure, of course. And then when he decided, yeah, okay, we will go, then he said, if I resign, where are we going to bring money from? You know, like, this is every day, you know, coming, money is here, stuff like that. So he was in a bind, how he's going to support the family. And my mother said, I don't care, we have to pioneer, it is part of the 10-year crusade. So all of a sudden the father said, oh, when he had, years ago, year before that, he had money, and he wrote to the guardian, he said, what should I do with it? The guardian told him, buy real estate. So my boy, and honest to God, he doesn't even know where those lands are. He asked the agent, go and buy me real estate. So he said, let me see, maybe those went in price. So it went high in price. So he went and asked the guy, and of course the price, who knows how many times went up. So that was the source of us, for the family, to depend on from an early reward for my father from the guardian. That was an early reward. Normally the rewards comes after, but this was an early reward. So then become the place where to live. All the houses in Kirkuk is very small, built on a Turkish way of houses, stuff like that. The people in the Kirkuk are from Turkoman, from regionally they are from Turkish background. So my father went, and there is only one guy in that city who knows all about the real estate. And he took my father all over the place, and my father said, this is small, this is not good, this is up, this is down. So he couldn't find anything. He came back very, very upset. He went second time to there, the same thing happened. He couldn't find anything. The third time, my mother said, I'm gonna go with you. He said, okay. One of the people in Kirkuk, one of the Baha'is, his name is Aziz Sabur, he was a high school teacher for English. His wife told my mother, she said, you will never find any house big enough, nice enough to accept, because Kirkuk, that's the way it is. My mother told her, I know Baha'u'llah will give me a good one. I'm sure of that. The other woman laughed, she said, okay, well, Baha will give you a good one. So she went with my father to Kirkuk. They went, the four of them. No, Aziz, Aziz and the agent and my father and my mother in one of those horse-driven buggy all over the town, nothing there. The town was ready to go to the train station to go to Baghdad. And on the way to the train station, my father turned to her, she said, I told you, there's nothing here. She said, we didn't reach to the station yet. So now while they're driving, all of a sudden, Aziz, the one with them, there was a guy on the street. He said, hi, how are you? Hi. My father said, what's going on? He said, oh, this is a guy, an army officer, my friend. He said, well, let's see, let's go down and say hi to him, It's, like part of teaching. So they came down. All of a sudden, the guy was standing in a huge house. And his wife came out. It turned out to be the wife is from Baghdad originally. And he's married to this wife. She said, I won't accept any house in Kirkuk. I want to build a huge house just like Iraq, just like Baghdad. And then they had extra land. They built a small house beside that big house. So my father and my mother went inside, and beautiful thing, just like my mother wanted. So they were sitting down talking, and then all of a sudden my father told him, he said, if you want to rent this house, how much would you ask? Before he asked him that officer of the army, he said, I wanted to take my family to Turkey this year in the summer. And he has about 4 kids. He said, it's going to be very expensive for us. I don't think we can make it. And we are very sad that we are not able to make it and stuff like that. So my father asked him, he said, how much do you think you're going to ask for a month? He said, oh, it's a huge house, it's this, He named some price, huge price. My father said, He said, how about I give you the whole year in advance? And you can go to Turkey, you can do what you want. He looked at his wife, my house. He said, yeah. Okay. The house is yours for 1 year. And they had to move all of them in the small house. Honest to God, every day this woman comes to inspect the house that she didn't, it was brand new, she was building it. Brand new, she said, I never tasted that house, Latifa took it from me. Yeah. So this is how my mother decided that Baha'u'llah is good for the best house in Kirkuk, and that's exactly what happened to her. Yeah, of course, Savandari came there, talked about it. And then, the second year we were there, my father asked once to go to one conference or something, and the guardian told him, no, the money that you have, spend it on the Baha'i Faith. Don't, your stay in Iraq is more important. He asked for another time for certain things, and the guardian said, stay in Iraq is more important. So, by that time, Samandari came, the hand of the Samandari, and my father has to go all over Iraq with him, taxis and everything. So he knew why the guardian told him, you don't try. My mother felt very bad. She said, the first time I want to go out of Iraq, no, that was the second time. First time she went to Turkey. Why the guardian said no, like she had some grudge in her heart, Guardian told us no. Then the 5 conferences was there. I think at the end of the 10-year crusade. And
No, I think so.
yeah, they sat together, my father and my mother, they decided like how much would this cost us to go around the 3 conferences. Then they said, if we're going to 3 conferences, why don't we bring a family in our house to take care of the kids, and we go for a year around the world? Yeah, that's a good idea. They sat down, they put down numbers, turned out to be about 5,000 pounds at that time. For the whole year, including hotels, including spending on this family where they're gonna come and live our house. Yeah, well, he said, I know I have real estate, I have properties, but I don't have cash. I cannot get the cash right now. I mean, it has to be done like within 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, the reservation of all the hotels and stuff like that. So, again, my mother, she said, well, again, it's another wish, nothing happens. At that time, my father used to work with a British company. He was the executive assistant to the CEO, and he used to accept commission, no salary. That's how he made his money, commission, no salary. All of a sudden, he got a telegram from this company, would you please come to Baghdad? Would you please come to Baghdad? We want to talk to you. So he went. He thought he made a mistake or did something wrong or something. He didn't know. So he went, he sat down in front of the manager. He said, Mr. Toeg, we made a mistake. We didn't pay you the right amount of money. We owe you 5,000 pounds. Exactly the amount that they calculated. He said, this is the check. Sorry, we should have given you earlier, stuff like that. My father said, thank you very much. Right away, he went to the post office. He sent a telegram to my mother. Prepare the bags. So they went for a whole year around the world, and that was a beautiful thing. In Kirkuk, she has a problem. She was the only woman driving a car there. And people used to see her driving, they spit on the car, she's with no saba, her face is shown, stuff like that. A lot of things happened there. Our car was an older one. 1949, and of course there in that city there is no good mechanics to help to repair the car. We had the battery of the car is an older one, and the terminals that goes on it were loose. We didn't know how to make it stronger, that we couldn't tighten it more. So what we did, we used to drive the nails between the battery and the terminals and stuff like that. Still was loose. So we put a brick in the car, near in front of the driver. So whenever there is a problem, the car stops. Somebody has to go open the hood, have a brick, hammer the battery, hit in the car, start, and it goes. So, of course, the car stops about 3-4 times during the trip. So my mother would come down, and everybody go. The car stops. What she's gonna do? There's no help. All of a sudden, she opens the hood. She takes the brake. Pow, pow, pow. Everybody run away because she has the brake in her hand. Oh, I was the talk of the town, you know, a woman with a brake. One day, she had a flat tire. No flat, like it needs a little bit of air. So there is a store for that person that to repair the punctures and stuff like that, and has the machine for air for the tires. So there was somebody stopped there. He was doing his own tires. So she has to go in front of that car, and when this guy goes away, she will back up to tires. Beside that store, there is a tea shop, coffee shop, tea shop. And we didn't know what's going on. All of a sudden we see people going. You know. So when the other guy drove away, my mother backed up and she said, "Can you check the tires?" She said. He came and put his head in the car. He said, "Do you know what happened in the tea shop?" My mother, he said, "The people were waging, like they were betting whether you can back up or not. That's why the people are going like that. Like, I do, she doesn't, she do. He said they were betting whether you can back up or not." Yeah, of course, that time, Kamal was, somebody threatened Kamal's life because he made the guy who I talked about, the counselor, the auxiliary board in Africa, made him Baha'i. And my mother went out. The guy came with a dagger. My mother went out. I was afraid of her because she has nothing on her face. He ran away. And I had to go to the center of those people. They gathered together as a group of Muslims and stuff like that in a coffee shop, and I threatened them. I said, "If you want to kill my brother, kill me. Anybody of you." And I told them, "You cowards, you this." But the problem is, Kamal had the last year of examination of the secondary school. So my mother used to take him in the car, take him to the secondary school, do the test, and bring him back to the house. So my mother, her life was again on, who knows who would attack her in her car. So she shielded my brother Kamal from all the problems. Then in Baghdad, the National Assembly of Iraq asked us to cut our pioneering and come back to Baghdad. There was a lot of problems in Baghdad, and people were not happy with the whole thing, and people used to have problems. Finally, my father has to be in every meeting, Baha'i, and everything, because in consultation time of the feast, people used to shout at each other, stuff like that. At the end, my father had permission to cancel the consultation time in the feast because it was only one family against the other and people supporting this. And even the hand of the cause asked him to be present at the National Assembly meeting there, and they said this is the last time that an auxiliary board member is present in the National Assembly meeting. There was a lot of problems. And once we came there, each one of us had to take part be present in committees, meetings. I was in four national committees, the local assembly of Baghdad. Kamal became member of the National Assembly. My mother became member of the National Assembly. My mother took on herself to be in charge of all the the children classes in all the cities that there is Baha'is, and she used to travel with the members all over Iraq, trying to find out how is the teaching, the classes of the Sunday classes going, or the Baha'i classes going. She was in charge of that. She did a very good job. And I remember till now, the members of the National Assembly of Iraq now, most of them, they were students of my brother Kamal, you know, and when he was teaching it. Oh my God. I have to skip some things. Oh, leaving Iraq was another problem. Each one of us were under pressure. We didn't know what to do. Each one of us was doing something against, because the Jews, there were so many laws against the Jews. Anybody who makes money, he has to give it to the government gives him back. My father, if he sells the land, it goes to the government, they give him monthly one. There was a lot of problems. Even one of them was the Minister of Oil of Iraq asked me and Kamal to be his personal assistants. And of course, you know, like if I would have accepted, they would discover that Jamal Toeg and Kamal Toeg are Baha'is from Jewish background, and they are assistant of the Minister of Oil in Iraq, who would have gone by that time. And I have to tell him, you know, in 3 months I'll make a decision what to do. And he threatened me to use a law in Iraq against me to bring me back, and a lot of problems. Each one of us has some, and our file, Daoud Toeg and his wife and his 3 kids coming up in the Department of Security Investigation. Lots of problems. Finally, we had to decide to go, but again, my mother decided no, unless the Universal House of Justice tell us it's okay to leave without a passport. That's the only time I would go. And then we got the letter from Universal House of Justice. And even the Baha'is in Iraq, they wouldn't associate with us or let us, and they didn't want us to be on any committee or assembly because of our Jewish background. They're afraid. And the Universal House of Justice wrote a letter to the Baha'is of Iraq. He said, you have to be more than a family to those people. You know, like, those are really your family, and that you are the only ones who they can depend on you. And it didn't work out. People were still afraid, and we were really very unhappy in the situation. Okay, anyway, so that's done. Now it's finally we have to leave Iraq. We went to Iran, Tehran, and from there we came to Canada, and we went to Montreal, and then we asked the National Assembly what to do. They said, go to Hull, form the assembly on your way to Toronto, and that's a whole story how we finally settled in Hull. We were going to go to Toronto. I was supposed to go the second day to Toronto and start the whole family, to transfer the whole family to Toronto, but something happened because prayer was read in the assembly, and the second day I was offered a job, and Kamal was offered a job, and we settled in Hull. So my mother was the one who opened our house and our apartment, the 2 bachelor apartment in Hull, to a fireside, and I think everybody who knows, who was from that time knows.
On Eddy Street.
Yes, on Eddy Street.
87 Eddy Street.
Yes, I forgot.
Yeah.
87, was it?
Yes, I think that was the house.
And 92 Riel later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Eddie one was 2 bachelor apartments. One for my father and mother, one for this. And when the fireside on Friday comes and people are there, the guy who built that apartments, he had a steel, beautiful decorated black steel wedged between the floor and the ceiling. And when the Baha'is comes, this thing go because this floor was go down and we have to hold it in place. Yeah. And then after my father died, we had a beautiful activities in Hull. We had the boat. We rented the boat for the Nowruz parties and the stores on Rue Principal, you know.
And quite a few French Canadian Baha'is, young people at that time became Baha'is.
That's right. And my father used to stay up to 3 o'clock whenever anybody comes to his apartment, stay until 3 o'clock there. He forget about his back, his pain, and everything. You know, it was a beautiful time. Yeah. And then after that, again, my mother was on that assembly. She was an instrument in teaching, all this kind of thing. And then, she went after that, pioneering to Kanata. And from Kanata, she went to Russell. And I think she went also pioneered to Rockland with Ishman to form the assembly, and then we are going to go to travel teaching in Canada. Okay, I had put some pictures of her and the new believers that she taught the Baha'i Faith to them, or some of the community with the new Baha'is. I have whatever I could find out about the newspapers they wrote about her, or anyway, interviews. She had a lot of interviews in TV stations, local TV stations. I have no way of knowing what happened. And the last thing, I put her notebook, the one she used to write every day what she did. It's the last thing on the table. Okay. See what I have here. Oh, yeah, one thing. I remember when we were in Iran, and one day we were sitting down, and my mother, she was talking. She said, I always used to think of how Allah talk about detachment. How can you do detachment? How do you detach yourself? You have so much things. You know, she said, I didn't know what does it mean. You know, she said, now I know what it means. You know, we are penniless, stateless, passportless, everything less, and we are happy because we are still a Baha'is and we still believe in Baha'u'llah. She said, now I know what it means to be detached. What I'll do, I will just read you the teaching committees that she was in touch with to have her travels. She was in touch with the Northwestern Ontario, Manitoba, South Saskatchewan, and Great Vancouver, and the National Teaching Committee too. And she became an assistant to Ron Parson for Covenant. Ron Parson is an auxiliary member for Covenant. She was a member of the LSAF in Newark, and lately she became a member of the National Arctic Teaching Committee after she was in all this. I will just go through the cities that she went through: Nunavut, Cambridge Bay, Yellowknife, Baker Lake, Rankin Inlet, Frobisher Bay, Pond Inlet, Swift Current, Moose Jaw, East Van, Weybourne, Fort Iqbal, Regina, Mount Pearl, Altertation, something, Deer Lake, Corner Brook, Stephenville, Goose Bay, Sussex, St. John's, West Passam, Piswas, Montcalm, Charlottetown, Souris, Halifax, Passage Bro, Truro, something like that, Sydney, Escosoni Reserve, Pouch Cove, Spencerville, Sudbury, plus the Indian Reserve around here, and I'm pretty sure anybody who has a car probably she would have asked him to take her to a reserve. I remember Faridun was telling me, he said, when I came here I didn't have a car, and she always said, Faridun, when you have a car, I want to go with you to a reserve. He said, the moment I bought a car, I said, dear Latifa, let's go.
She was always ready to go. I remember that.
Well, when she didn't go, I remember in Canada, when she'd go to the mall and sit in the mall and hope she'd meet somebody who's not going to make it, you know? She was always telling us.
I have some if you let me,
Sure.
I'll have some of her writings.
Jamal, just before you read that, your mother was for sure, we know she was a prepared soul, because she told me herself, even before she met your dad, I remember her telling me that she used to cry and pray and say, oh God, why can't these religions get along? Why are they fighting with one another? They're all from God, you know? So she had that idea very early in her life. I think she told me she was just a teenager when she was upset by all these differences in the different religions, you know?
Yeah.
And she used to pray that they could all get along.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's why when the moment my father said it's unity and this,
That was it.
that's the one. I'm looking for that.
Right.
Her mother, my grandmother, on Friday, Friday is the day of Quran. All the TV, all the stations, radio stations, they put the intoning of the Quran there, and her mother on Friday she put the radio very low. She listens to the Quran, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really, in fact, her mother, her one of her sisters, and a brother, they were Baha'is. They believed in Baha'u'llah.
Oh.
But they had to go to Israel, and they were afraid where to go. You know, if they don't be, the Jews will shun them, and something happened to them, stuff like that. But until the end, her sister and her brother and her mother, they were Baha'is in heart. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and her sister, she used to go to Haifa, and she wants to visit, you know. She tells them, I am sister-in-law Latifa Toeg. Oh yeah, okay, he can come. Okay, I'll read you some of her writings. The next day there was a Baha'i woman, Pam. She has been Baha'i for only 2 years. She's very dedicated and serves as on the assembly. Her boyfriend Bill, who was not a Baha'i, has a degree about the environment. They are going to be married in April. I invited them for an Iraqi supper, or normal Iraqi supper and a Turkish coffee.
Yeah.
Bill is very quiet and does not socialize very much. When they came, he did not join in the conversation. He just listened, and people did not understand him. I didn't know what to say to him. I asked Baha'u'llah, what should I do, or what should I say? All of a sudden, I remember an experience I had when I was pioneering in Inuvik. It was a long story. The man had had a spiritual experience, and he declared, after I had seen him 4 times, After I told him this story, so he declared after a fortnight. Bill started to talk and became very open. I think he was afraid to tell people what he had happened to him, and that's what people thought he was very shy. He started to tell us about his spiritual experience. Twice in his life, he almost died, but he knew that God saved him for a reason. After he told us about these stories, he was very open. I gave him a card and told him, he may need it one day. That night he dreamed he saw Baha'u'llah. When he woke up, he went to his fiancée to sign the card I gave him. The night was the birthday of Baha'u'llah. Bill came and sat near me. He told me he felt as if someone had opened his eyes wide. His face was glowing and he wouldn't close his mouth from smiling and telling me about his happy feeling. Pam is very happy now that they will be a Baha'i couple, a Baha'i village.
Wow.
They ask her, after everything she goes, she writes something about that visit, something like that. I chose some of it. This is when she was in Arizona. I didn't mention that. Also, I used to go every day to have coffee in a donut shop after an hour walk. I tried to find respective faces to talk about the faith. But now, to break the ice, I asked Baha'u'llah to help me every time. One day I was tired, sitting there, and no one was the kind I wanted to talk to. All of a sudden, a woman with a smiling face came in, and before she sat down behind me, she greeted me. I asked in my heart for spiritual help, and these words came to me. Look at those beautiful oranges on the trees. They were gorgeous. I missed that because I am from beautiful orange countries on the trees. They were, because I'm from Canada, where Baha'i Faith, because I am Baha'i. Did you hear? Oh, she asked her, did you hear about the Baha'i Faith? I showed her the pamphlet with the principles. She asked about the Baha'i Faith. I showed it, yeah. She had many questions, and we talked and talked. I always invite these people to have lunch and a supper, to be more intimate. She is 49 years old, and her name is Kathleen. She is studying at the university. After about 3 weeks, she was so much in love with the teachings at lunchtime in the restaurant, I introduced the card to her. She said, I want to sign it. When I took her to the fireside, someone asked her how she became Baha'i. She said, she went to have a coffee one day and saw a woman with a glowing face who told her about Baha'i Faith, and she wanted to be one. So the glowing face is not me, but Baha'u'llah let her see that in me. Yeah, beautiful. I don't know, do you have time more? This one. At the request of the Newark Spiritual Assembly, Latifa undertook a third trip to Rizwan, to Old Crow in the Yukon, to assist that community in the procedure for the election of its own assembly. He assisted in the procedure of electing an assembly.
In Old Crow.
Yeah.
Old Crow.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, some of those names I can't even say it right, but I think, let me just go to another thing here. Yeah, I hope I did the right thing and said the right thing tonight. anybody have any questions, I will be happy to answer, unless you have something that you want to share with the Baha'is here about her life, how. I'm pretty sure anybody who knew her had something to say about her. You know, something, either she said something, or she did something, or she managed to do something. Yeah.
She always struck me as to how she was, you know, she just put her trust in Baha'u'llah, and she would tell us that, you know, and she was never shy. And you think about, especially over the last few weeks, many of us have struggled with the idea of inviting somebody to one of the various Holy Day celebrations, and not all of us succeeded, and that would never have been her problem. She would just say, go and do it, pray to Baha'u'llah, and have to go, you know.
Well, that's why the Guardian called her a muqina, a woman with certitude.
Yeah.
Muqina, is that what it means?
Yes, yeah.
And then that's how you named your daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my mother suggested to Jack.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
And she
well,
would
of course,
challenge
we
people.
transliterated it
Yeah,
the English way because people can't pronounce it like the Arabic way.
yeah.
And she would challenge people to become a Baha'i, you know. I know of one
She was
couple,
very brave, yeah.
you know, Sunni Muslim, and she said, well, what are you waiting for? You know, and he declared, you know.
Yeah, but this is really all the education came from my father. All the knowledge about Islam and everything came from my father. You know, like he really blessed life in her. You know, her education is nothing. Her knowledge of languages is nothing. What she used to do is tell the people that she was there, please come with me to the shopping center. You stay in the upper level, and I'll go down and show you how I teach the faith.
Yeah.
And honest, they used to stay in the upper level, looking at her down, and she's going to see this one or this one. She'll find the right one, and she moved there, and she started. You know. And again, like you remember, most of you remember that the nights, the ascension of Baha'u'llah, Abdul Baha, or the food she used to make and stuff like that. I have one story. I think it's very nice. She's a Jewish gourmet cooking. You know, the Jews has a very nice plates and stuff like that, and she mastered that. She mastered everything, you know, in cooking and so the men who used to be our cook, she used to teach them how they prepare it, what kind of flavor they put, what kind of this, what kind of that, you know, and so that we would accept their meals without saying, oh, it's different than my mother. It's the same way she does it. One day, everybody was raving about a restaurant which was built by an architect, a very famous architect in Baghdad. The house is a huge house. It was decorated exactly like the decoration of the Arab in Spain. You know, the ornaments, the carpets, everything was completely as if it is in Spain. And the food was out of this world. Everybody used to go to that restaurant because the food is very nice. So my mother, she said, maybe I should invite my cousins, the one that this aunt has, and we go to that restaurant and see what kind of food they are talking about. So we went, all of us. I remember a huge table and sat down, and everybody ordered something so that we have enough varieties of the food that, you know. So we're sitting down, and she was eating. She went like that. She asked the other one, she said, can I have taste from your food? She said to the waiter, she said, can I speak with your chef, please? He said, ma'am, he's busy. She said, I know he's busy, but I have some complaint. I want to talk to him. Oh, completely. I will ask him to come. So he went. Somebody came and said, Jamal! Turned out to be the one she trained. Oh, Jamal! What do you think? What do you think? Did I do it right? Is anything missing in it? He said, I'm going to go back. Whatever you didn't order, I'm going to send it to you free. I want you to tell me what should I tweak.
Wow.
Thank you very much, friends.
Thank you.